100 people and counting, standing in line, some of them for 4 hours. Well, they're here to meet some rock stars. Is it Justin Timberlake?
No.
Justin Bieber?
No.
Beyonce?
No.
Who is it then?
Chip and Joe.
Oh, what is it you love about them?
Everything. Their furniture, their family, everything.
I cannot wait to meet them. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to interview them. What am I standing in line for? Here.
Get ready for fun. Get ready for laughs. Get ready to have a great day. Live from the KHOU 11 studios, it's Great Day Houston. And now here's your host, Deborah Duncan.
Are y'all ready to see your fixer-upper?
Chip and Joanna, we love watching the show, obviously, because you can take a cardboard lean-to and turn it into Taj Mahal. But as we started watching, what we also love is your relationship. And so that's kind of the other story that unfolded. So I'm going to back the truck up. How did you two meet?
Wow, Will, I worked for my father at his Firestone store. So he had a local automotive place that I worked for 10 years, and Chip was getting his truck worked on. And I met him out front in the waiting area, and I had done commercials for my dad.
You know us as a locally owned, family-operated tire store with the lowest price guarantee.
And he had said, yeah, you're the girl in the commercials. And I thought, oh, great. It's kind of one of those creepy guys. But then we sat and talked, and the next day he called, and we went out on a date. And
I joke with my buddies that it's like I got my brakes done a couple of times a month, whether I needed it or not, you know. So I just, statistics were in my favor that eventually I would run into the beautiful Joanna Stevens. So if you've gone into family businesses here locally, they had a picture of mom and dad and then these beautiful daughters. And so as a customer, you would just get to know the family vicariously through this photo. So I set my mind on Joe and kept getting my brakes done until we finally accidentally ran into each other.
You two seem like real kind of salt of the earth people. You don't even have a television at your house?
no.
So how do you watch your shows?
We go to our friend's house.
We
We go on date night.
We've turned what is movie night to most folks. Ours is TV night, and this happened even before the show. I mean, we would get hooked on some popular television show, and we would make a week date out of it. You know, we would hook up with a local couple, and we would go watch it at their house, and we would get interested in television shows just like everybody else. We just, for whatever reason, we've just kind of evolved into we rock and roll. You know, I mean, everything's happening from 7 in the morning until 7 at night, and then obviously even sometimes a little later than that. And we look back even after the 12, 13 years that we've been together doing this no TV thing, and like,
What
I don't know where
motivated you
we
to do
would
that?
You know, it's funny, our first, right before we got married, we did some marriage counseling, and the guy had said, hey,
which was tough for me.
try a month without TV right after your honeymoon. And so we tried a month, and we looked at each other and said, let's try it for 6 months, and then a year. And then after a year, we just stopped asking, and we just kind of never looked back.
And the farm and your kids become enough entertainment.
Yes, I mean, this guy, he keeps things busy, so.
We've got a picture window, and we look out that, and there's a goat being born, and might as well be a
Real
National
reality
Geographic.
TV, right?
There you go.
You don't really have the formal training of design, but you do what just feels right. And I think that's what makes a house a home. Mm-hmm. And so the best advice for people who are trying to put it together but feel frustrated that they don't have that perfect look.
Right. Well, I always think, you know, you can get inspiration from places like Pinterest and magazines, but I think if you really start with the home, your story, and the season of life you're in, if you kind of gather from that and tell your own story, I feel like it's more freeing to just kind of do what works for you and your family. But I think a lot of people look at it and say, I want this look, and it's hard to get that look because that's a trained designer.
You don't have a Chip at home.
Well, and so I just think if you focus on telling your story, it's going to feel more like home to you and to everyone that comes in. So I think you just need to really hone in on.
Yeah. When you were a little girl, were you the type of little girl who could never throw anything away? Because as my son says, I had an experience with that. And so you feel attached to it?
That was me. Totally, yeah. I would just, every year I'd have a binder. I wouldn't throw anything away.
So you were Pinterest before there was Pinterest?
Well, and I wouldn't say even design. It was just I was junky. So like I had sticker books. I would never let anyone take the stickers off. So and it's funny because now my two girls are exactly like that. You go in their room and they're just,
pack rats,
they don't want to throw one thing away.
Yeah.
There's
Were
a
you the
sentimental
Lego
thing.
guy that you just kept like rearranging and building things?
I didn't organize anything, didn't keep anything, but I remember before even Legos, it was like I would deconstruct these remote controlled cars and and then try to reconstruct them in a completely different concept. So it was a race car to begin with, and then by the time it was all said and done, it was a little T-Rex of sorts. So that was sort of my thing.
Flipping houses is all the rage today, but you were doing that before it was really that popular thing.
I joke about that. You know, it's really interesting, you know, because what we do as a profession has turned somewhat trendy. You know, it's sort of a, like you said, a thing. But
A lot of people think they can do it. What should they keep in mind?
Oh, that's the tough one. That's the $1 million deal. I certainly don't want to discourage anybody, but back in the day, I mean, you know, it was really funny when, for example, when we first met, you know, I would tell her dad that this was what I did for a living, and he didn't put 2 and 2 together. That didn't sound like an actual profession, you know. So after years of dating and then marriage, he would ask me, "So, are you thinking about getting a job? You know, are you going to do this deal?" And I was like, "Well, this is my job, you know." But back in those days, it wasn't common knowledge like it is now.
How you doing? Hey. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Were you prepared for what happened? I mean, you were just basically, that was a reflection of your lives, what you do all the time. And then all of a sudden you have hundreds of people standing outside chanting your name.
No, absolutely not. I think
Freaky.
we're still.
I always dreamed about that. You know, I'd be in the shower, I'd owe somebody $500 or $600, and somebody would be dealing with me and trying to figure out how to get me to mow their lawn on time. And I would be thinking, one of these days, there's going to be people standing at a place in Houston chanting my name. And I think I just willed it to happen, you know. Joe's always been secretly the same way. You know, she's not as outgoing as I am about admitting that I've always thought about fame and things of that nature. But Joe always had a kind of a quiet ambition.
Well, I studied broadcast journalism, so I wanted to do TV. So I think there was always in my mind to do
Well, so your
something
passion
camera.
meets your career all
Yes,
at the same
how
time.
fun is that?
There you go.
Yeah. All right. It used to be you would go to Waco because you would go to Dr. Pepper plant or go to Baylor.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now you guys are like the #1 stop.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Unbelievable. We love it. We're so proud. We're honored to highlight our little town in that way. And so obviously we're really thankful for all the folks that decide to make Waco a destination spot.
We're in such a throwaway society. We'll get something, especially technology-wise. We'll grab
Trends
something and
and-
go, there's a new one out. Wait, I need the
Exactly.
new one. But what you've done with that Magnolia collection is it's new, but it's old. It feels familiar.
Yeah, there's such a thing that I love just about things that are timeless, because for me it's, if I'm going to tell a client to spend money, I want this to be something that lasts for a long time. I don't want it in 3 years when the next thing comes that they're going to want that. You know, it's your biggest investment when you're doing stuff like furniture, even renovation. So I really try to start with, let's work with classic timeless pieces, because those are the ones that tell that story and that have all that character that I love.
All right. Well, Joanna, we love your furniture because it is different by design. And Joanna's furniture line, Magnolia Home, is only available at Star Furniture. Also coming soon, Joanna's new magazine and a book. Now, a little something that happened before the camera started rolling. I was putting the microphone on Joanna, and she looked at me and she said, "What do I do with this?" I was like, "Excuse me?" She goes, "What do I do with this?" It was a piece of gum. At first, I told her to make a wall hanging out of it because if anyone could do it, she could. Instead, I folded it up in my notes right here, and I told her I was going to auction it off to the highest bidder. So here we go. Opening big, $5. Anybody? No. All right, I'll put it on eBay instead. Well, it's funny because I folded it over, and I was like, now I can only ask you like 3/4 of the question I was going to ask you. All right, but anyway, they are so sweet. What you see on TV is exactly what you get in person. When we come back, she's a fictional fashionista named Fabulous Phoebe, but the clothes in her closet are now real. We'll take a look at the children's clothing line inspired by the book.